that's enough of that. Now, here we come with the No Goat Show. And here is David Thrustle, who we haven't had for
alive.
We've only got a small screen.
It's so small.
And so welcome, everybody. We haven't been around here for a while. We have some important things to talk about. But before we talk about, David, have you gone surviving the virus that you didn't believe in?
The virus that nearly took you out.
Actually, I stand my ground. Clear the way. Yep, clear the way. Let me talk. Yep. It's I've been sick. I've been very sick. It's quite debilitating. In fact, as I said to Tricky Dicky just before, I felt like I'd been poisoned by a bioweapon, is how I felt, actually.
Because you've been poisoned so many times by bioweapons.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience in this area, you know.
As you have been trying to take it out for a while.
Anthrax, all the rest of it. No, I have to say, look, just to get it out of the way up front, it's all been very suspicious up here.
What's going on?
There was nothing going on. There was nothing going on. Let's face it. Certainly in our neck of the woods, and I think a lot of people can relate, we've had 2 years of nobody sick with nothing, all right? And then all of a sudden, they build this huge, ugly, stupid testing centre up here, not far away in Castlemaine. They build this huge, stupid thing. It's ridiculous. Nothing going on. And then a couple of days later, or a week later at most, there's outbreaks in all the schools, and people, for the first time that I've seen in 2 years, myself, people were actually getting sick, actually getting sick, and some of them getting really, really sick, like in bed for weeks, completely debilitated, blah, 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 blah. It's all been highly suspect, I have to say, So I stand my ground. It's all very sus. I don't believe any of their bullshit narrative around it. As we all know, every day, supposedly, if you believe their bullshit, thousands of people test positive. I don't believe any of this crap. And there's nothing wrong with them whatsoever.
What was the story with the chemtrails? You were showing me, I saw some map you sent to all of us about the chemtrails over the regional area you live in.
I realise this is a speculative area. I realise that. I don't have a concrete opinion about it myself, but somebody sent me that, and that was this area. That that day that we were all in Ballarat at the Eureka March, right?
Yeah.
That day there was this flight going over this whole area, crisscrossing it for hours in this elaborate pattern, and then a few days later, a week later, people started getting sick all over this region. Now make of that what you will. I'm not definitive about that, but I think the timing, and that plus the huge testing centre that they just happened to build, and then a whole lot of sick people turned up a week later, I find all of that timing extremely suspicious. Okay.
Well, from a positive point of view, it's pretty good that you've got a big testing centre since you all got sick.
Well, you could argue that, but I simply
you didn't have one if you all got sick and they didn't have.
Well,
half empty, half full, David. Like,
if you want to see it that way, go right ahead. I mean, look, you know my position, and I stand by my position. Actually, I'm sus on the whole freaking narrative.
But obviously, there was something. You had something, and it fits.
Sure. Absolutely.
You didn't go get a test. You didn't go get a test or anything.
Because the tests are meaningless. Like as I was saying, thousands of people every day. If you believe any of this shit,
can you smell or taste?
And then hundreds of people, or whatever, some amount of people get a little sniffle or a little cold, and some people get the flu. And the test tells you nothing meaningful anyway. Which one have you got? Which one of these things have you got? The nothing thing, or the thing that's the cold, or the thing's the flu, or the freaking bioweapon that I had, and I know a few other people had the absolute freaking bioweapon that laid you flat, So there you go.
And
before we move on, we have to get something, because we're working with someone now. I said if we talk about something about MSN, that'll get a huge new reach. And there's something been happening in Melbourne that we need to talk about. It's just absolutely not funny. I'm actually going to play it. So Rukshan shared this yesterday. So here we go. Here we go.
It's not funny, but you're doing your best to make it funny.
It's coming.
Technology, eh?
Buffering.
Just fucking burned himself and shit. Fucking hell, Melbourne. Dan Andrews, that's on your fucking hands, you dog.
Well, he's right, isn't he? The guy, whoever's speaking, he's right. It's on Daniel Andrews' head, isn't it?
So that,
you know,
that was in Richmond. There's no count yet of whether the person's dead or alive. Like the Werribee woman will probably not hear anything. But what we do know is that he was calling out against the mandates, against Dan Andrews, stuff like this. And then he set himself alight in the car. Oh, that's as much as we know.
And I heard it was the third immolation, self-immolation. So I don't know what the other one
there's
is.
Apparently,
there's two, but apparently there's the third
another one that they might be keeping quiet. But they can't keep this one quiet because they've got video. Video's going out. What can you do? And the video, there's lots of video from different places. And we don't, media's not supposed to talk about suicide because it creates suicide. But I think this is different. These people are making a huge message with their lives about how distressed they are, and I think it's insane. It reminds me of the
it's a cry for help, isn't it? I mean, it's a classic cry for help. My heart actually so goes out to that poor person, whoever that poor person was. You know, I think the sort of injuries that they've received are very, very difficult to recover from. I would
now
assume
people dining in the restaurants pulled him out. They pulled him out of the car.
Well, it might even be more than a cry for help. It might actually be people trying. I've lost absolutely everything. That's what the woman in Werribee was saying. I've lost everything, and I'm trying to give my life, what's left of my life, some meaning, and that's to change what's happening because
it's similar to the Vietnam protests by the monks in Vietnam who would burn themselves alive. You know, they reached the point of where this must stop, and I'm going to basically sacrifice my life to make it stop. I mean, it's not an act of terrorism because it's just an act of self-harm. But
if someone's going to sacrifice themselves, is it possible that they might take someone else with them when they were doing it?
Of course.
I don't suggest anything to anyone. I'm just saying is that. No. See, we're together in the same cell in Mickleham because I've gone too far.
But I'd just like to say, no. Let me say, I'd just like to congratulate.
It's not going to be as bad as I thought.
Not that my green screen works, but at least I'd
just like to congratulate Michael and Damo on coming out and being proud members of the LBGT community now as a couple. And it's great to see you both.
They're letting us live stream from Mickleham, so it's not as bad.
Here we go. We've got
that, Richard.
Hallelujah. Some diversity. Amen.
Back up.
Couldn't hear that.
Okay, lose the smile. Drop down a bit with your chin, just a tangent. When you do that, you're actually really handsome. That should be how you walk around, like this. You're actually quite really handsome.
Problem is I'm too tall for this.
My liking, but there you go.
Let's get back to this poor fellow in Richmond.
Sorry.
Frankly, it's so diabolical and so awful. And of course, many of us make the comparison, and it's an absolute fair enough comparison with the monks protesting against the Vietnam War. It's an absolutely valid comparison, obviously. And what this tells, one of the things this tells us, it tells us a lot of things, and you're right, it tells us a bunch of things. But one of the things that it tells us is we are at war. This is what happens in war. Yeah. These are the casualties of war. Yeah. I'm not belittling their suffering at all. I think their suffering is huge, actually. It's huge, But this is what happens when you are at war. And our governments are at war against us. Yeah, we're not really. It's not a two-way street. We're not really at war against them because most of us haven't realised yet that they're at war against us. But this is what happens in war. That's what happened in Vietnam.
David, if it's ignored by the mainstream media, I'm just asking you this question. If it's ignored by the mainstream media, as it probably will be, even if they put it on for a bit, they will memory hole it pretty damn quickly.
Course,
what does it say to anyone? It won't say anything to anyone because it almost doesn't exist.
Well, I mean, as we know, the alternative media and the channels that we're connected to, etc., etc.
That's good, Rick. Right there. Don't move. You look great.
Sorry, David. We're trying to conduct a serious conversation.
Just saying.
These two black t-shirts suddenly.
We got clowns here, you know. But
where did the memo go out? They're all wearing black t-shirts anyway.
And you're right. The mainstream media probably will memory hole it, and that tells you a whole lot. That tells you how despicable they are, and I've never been a fan of the mainstream media ever. Okay,
really?
But it tells you, yeah, I know, you know. But it tells you even from the era of when those monks did that in the early 70s. It tells you how far and how disreputable and disgusting the mainstream media has become. Because I'm sure the little bit of coverage that gets in the Herald Sun or wherever, they will belittle that poor person. They will sort of mock them, and they'll make light of it in some grotesque kind of way, And
they'll probably find a way to blame anti-vaxxers for it, don't you think?
Oh, before we get to that point, I just want to say, if you're out there and you think you've been doing the same thing, don't. Come and join the revolution. Come down, join with us. With a lot of energy we can use. We're all helping each other. Yeah. And what's happening at the moment, what David's saying, at the moment, people are in a war and they're besieged. They've literally been told you can't work, you can't this. They're running out of money. They're selling their houses. I was talking to a young man last night, a father of two, and he's basically selling his house, looking to how he can survive to hold out. And lots of people all over the state. We had two women on, a man and a woman on, Najma and Sam on Tuesday night, I think, who were besieged. They were both desperate for work. I put out the call to get them work. The community has got them work. Okay, I'm not going to say who, because the show directive Nazi scum will go probably try and find it and shut them down, but they got work. So thank you for that. But we can get through this together. You're of more use to us alive and fighting. Let them deal with you in Mickleham. Yes, we need you.
I'd like to. I'd like to echo those comments.
You can turn your distress. I realize that people have a huge amount of distress, and I absolutely empathize. You can turn your distress into something, into action.
Well, to tell you something else, the free hug, I don't know, you wouldn't know, David, because you're not in the modern world, but the free hug army that we started, we've been doing it for about 3 weeks now. Today we found out the starting one in Canada, the starting one in New Zealand, the starting 2 in Queensland, Shepparton, another one in Perth. It is spreading faster than Omicron.
Like the yellow vests. Yellow vests.
There's people everywhere writing free hugs things. They're going down to market and starting it. So that started from Mark, who I got the idea from when I was seeing him in the march. So that's spreading. So this is ways we can fight. So
So do you think, like, obviously I don't wish ill upon anybody. We're all in our own personal struggle, and I agree with what Michael's saying. Getting involved is such a fantastic antidote. Yeah. It almost takes the negative and turns it into a positive, to be quite honest. But is it not the case that any movement will actually need some martyrs for the cause before it actually grounds itself in?
Because we are at war, and this is what happens at war. There is collateral damage, and there are victims. And I mean, I think, while I don't endorse what the person in Richmond or the person in Werribee did, I don't endorse it, and I don't encourage you to do it. I do empathise with their plight, and I do empathise with their pain, and I do empathise with the fact that they have written their pain large for people to see. They've made something of pain. I'm not encouraging you to do it, but they have done something with their pain. They've made a stand, so that if you know about it, you can't look away. Just like those monks in Vietnam. It's like that.
And it tells you how extreme it is. It tells you actually how extreme the circumstances are.
Of course, and I think that's why it should be in the media.
Why has you ever been in, like, we're 15 minutes into the show, and are you okay, mate? Are you still reeling from his comment about what is your better side?
Are you still reeling from the comment?
I'm allowed to talk, am I? I'm always accused of interrupting everybody.
Anyway, David.
Hang on, am I allowed to say something?
And now,
I'm allowed to speak. Oh, fantastic! Wow, I can say something.
I just want to.
I wanted to hang on. Shut up. My turn to talk.
No, just one thing.
Let Richard have a go. Let Richard have a go. I know you've just gone out of your deathbed and you're all revved up and you've got all this extra energy. I get it. Please.
No, I get back to bed.
He'll punish us at the back end. We don't let him in now.
All right. Look, if we can get any info, if anyone has got info about that poor person in Richmond and their status, how they're doing, can we just put out a call out? If anyone's got any credible info.
Well, not to you. You never pick up the phone.
You don't even have a phone. You got a landline.
Am I on a telegram that actually uses real telegrams?
Not only do you look like Cat Weasel, you're looking like Cat Weasel.
Yeah. Come on.
Okay, mute him. Mute his microphone. Mute him.
We want to know what has happened to that poor person.
Yes, we'll keep the call out. Yeah, don't come in. No, agreed.
Clearly a symptom. No, allow me to say this.
We can't forget their sacrifice. We cannot not encourage it, but let's not forget their sacrifice, okay? They have made a huge sacrifice for all of us, actually.
Okay, agreed. Richard, do you have something to say?
I think I've never been. Okay, David. Clearly, one of the symptoms of the new strain of COVID is you can't stop talking, and David is clearly, I think, picked up motor mouth. That's really the Omicron. Did you have the Omicron?
Really good from the record holder. That's really good coming from the record holder. And the pot turns around and tells the kettle it's looking a little black today.
Exactly. 3 times in a row.
Anyway.
Omicron, boom.
I think I'm not the one interrupting tonight. Okay, so British Stenell has had this great quote where it's the game that moves as you play, and that I think we're involved in a game that's moving as we're all playing it. David has been very sick with COVID, obviously, and you can see them almost trying to back off the COVID thing. There's a talk that Omicron will end this crisis, but what I wanted to ask everybody is why are they still, persisting with this kind of two-tiered society for the unvaccinated? I mean, what are your thoughts on all that? Because clearly by now everybody who wanted the vaccine has had it, and clearly the people that don't now have it don't want it. So, why is this continuing? Why is it punitive? Particularly when it's during a mental health crisis. Go ahead.
Firstly, I would suggest that they're lying about all the numbers they're lying about. I saw something come out of the UK the other day that somebody sent me, where and I know people have done this in Australia, but also in the UK. Somebody just went to some official government site where they've listed all the numbers of people getting injected and blah, blah, blah. And they actually just did the maths. They pulled it all apart. And actually what they found is that 42%, this is according to their analysis, 42% of the English public have not taken the injection at all. 42%. Okay?
So just under half. Yep.
So we have another person who did an analysis on Dan Andrews' Facebook comments.
Yeah.
And they're a computer analyst. They're working with us at the moment. They found over 50% of them are false.
Of course.
Things, bots. 50%.
Chinese bots.
Saying how great he is, how great he is.
Straight from Beijing.
Half of them are false.
But they're on the taxpayer payroll to make those false.
Yeah, that's right. You're paying for their false things to tell them how good he is.
Anywhere you scratch the narrative, it's revolting. It's like a pussy sore. Anywhere you scratch it, it is full of pus and bile, and it's revolting. I heard the rumor that Dan Andrews has got 400 people on his social media team. That's what I heard.
400. $110 million a year he spends on that. I don't know how to switch my new phone off, and because I'm doing everything goes off. But I just want to read out Damien Richardson's new Wikipedia.
Well, before you do, I want to answer Richard's question, because he was saying, what does he think is happening with the narrative? And I think that they're basically really working on the propaganda to create an Untermensch. So the anti-vaxxer, wherever we look, we're the Untermensch. And they're using us as the fall guy for everything that will fall apart in this narrative, because it's such a hoax, it's such a load of hokum, and all they know is that it will fall apart. And when they set it off in one direction, they don't know how it's going to turn out, how it's going to manifest. So the Indigenous community burning down the old Parliament House the other day,
which they blamed us.
They blamed us for. The narrative is that we had infiltrated the Indigenous community, anti-vaxxers and the freedom movement had infiltrated the Indigenous community to get them to take these sort of crazy actions, even though they've been camping in front of place for basically 50 years and looking for the opportunity.
I've been infiltrating the Indigenous community for years. I go to Arnhem Land, they just let me in, no one notices. I have to actually tell them I'm not Indigenous, and they go, no way.
No.
I mean, that was more of that was more of something of the, that to me reminded me of more Black Lives Matter. And like, obviously someone got a bit carried away there and accidentally set the door on fire, or maybe on purpose set it on fire. But they always go on about right-wing terrorism. What about the terrorism of the far left? I mean, and all these fires that popped up.
Well, that's what they're saying. They're saying we infiltrated the movement. We infiltrated them.
Yeah, because I set up a hashtag called Wooden Doors Matter.
You can't believe a word they say about anything. They spin everything. I mean, really, how could you believe a word they were saying, But believe it or not, I was responding to what Richard was asking when I was bringing up the numbers, because I think the numbers are all completely false. And that, because if you go by their official numbers here, only, 8% of the population are stabbed, It's clearly a lie.
Here,
they're lying about everything, and that's why they have to go so hard, because the numbers are nowhere near what they're talking about. And that's why
in Sydney Road, they have a huge supermarket op shop called Savers, and they had Nazis on the door. Getting in there was like getting past Nazis. And they were very, very quiet. And I did have a few people have a false passport. I'm so ashamed of them. I'm disgusted by them. But they were going in and it was quiet. The day that they allowed them to be op shops to be essential, thanks to some people annoying them, I don't know who.
Can't imagine who that was.
They made them where anyone could go in. It was jam-packed with people all day.
Yeah, I mean, that's extraordinary.
Before we move on to the main thing. So Wikipedia used to read Damien Richardson.
Is that your take?
Yeah. Damien Richardson is an Australian and film, television and theatre actor and writer, a graduate from the Victorian College of Arts, etc., etc.
Blah, blah, blah.
Now it reads, Damien Richardson is an Australian anti-vaxxer and film, television and theatre actor and writer.
They got it in there.
So it's a bit of a witch hunt. To everybody who's out there trying to do a witch hunt for Damien, once you get the reward up enough, we know where he is. Just saying.
Let me say about my own Wikipedia page. I had a Wikipedia page, right? My page was basically memory hole. It was removed, right? Completely vanished. I had a Wikipedia page for 20 years. People were changing it. Sometimes you'd get somebody on there who didn't like me, who, put in a really bad quote for me or something, But like, basically, I found out that some kind of social justice warrior was a moderator on Wikipedia. It didn't like me, removed my Wikipedia page, which actually was good. It's like getting off.
I'm on the way. Maybe that's where I'm on the way to. But that's what the Wayne Coke did in 1984, didn't he? He memory holed everything. He went back and went over.
Game with the memory hole. Yeah. I've never heard that word until today. Now you're on music. Richard, are you near a computer?
Yes.
Do I have a Wikipedia page? Let's have
a look. I'll have a look.
Check you out. I empathise, Damo. I don't pay much attention to this crap, but people tell me that also my page has been a war zone for many years.
You've got a page.
You know what, David? I don't pay any attention to it either.
I'm an anti-vaxxer. I'm some notorious international criminal like Blofeld or somebody. Then it disappears. Then it comes back. It's been like a war zone for years.
But you know what it is, David? People send it to you, like I'm sure they do with you as well. I don't know half of the things that happen. People send them to me. Any articles that are written, people say, "Oh, did you see this? Did you see that?" So I thought it's probably worth.
Hang on a minute. David has a Wikipedia page, and there's no slander on there at all. Controlled opposition.
Try and hide enough, buddy. Lift your game, pal. Lift your game
yourself, David.
Do not tell me to lift my game.
That means. Damien's got one. He's an anti-vaxxer. You've got one. It's all nice because maybe you got your wife to write it. Yeah. Do I have one?
Nothing. Just telling me he hasn't got one, please.
I don't have
Mine's good.
Nothing. Michael who? It says Michael who.
Mine went up the chimney at Auschwitz along with along with my
no,
first Facebook account. Hi.
But
Which chimney was that? The one built with the building or up?
Damo,
No,
Michael,
I'm out
Richard,
of here.
I tell you,
I'm
it'll
out of
come
here.
and it'll be like a seesaw. It'll come and go. There'll be
No, I'll go
arguments
to
about it.
Wikipedia anyway. It's a dumb thing. Who goes there? No one.
Yeah, it's crap. Ignore it. It's all bullshit. I mean,
You know, it's actually good without a Wikipedia page because that used to.
Yeah, I think it's great. I'll fly without it.
yeah.
No problem
And
at all.
you know,
Anyway, off our egos.
they're a war zone, and one week you'll be a serial killer, and the next week you'll be, in Damo's case, you know,
Let's
an
stop
actor.
dragging just because you're on it, buddy.
Well, they're the sort of characters I used to play anyway, so it's going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. It might actually help.
Yeah. Oh, don't
Okay,
worry. Look,
now the big
look,
news.
interviews. I can tell you now, interviews with me on the internet, they vanish like mushrooms in
This
summer.
is true.
You know?
It's very
They
hard
get
to find.
scammed all the
Well, the
time.
ratings are telling us that, David. The ratings are telling us
Do
that.
you have a light at all there in
Bring your light
Castlemaine?
No, we don't know where he is. He's in a regional centre.
Yeah, regional
It might
centre.
be too dark for you.
See if you can borrow one of the lights from the testing centre to use for the show. See if they want you to borrow one.
They've got plenty. They've got
got the
plenty.
bleach?
Don't worry.
Now, David, because you've had the COVID, have you been drinking bleach like Donald Trump said? Have you been gargling with bleach?
I
Just
did
use it on your hair.
Look, I
You
did
drink it.
everything that
Drink
Donald
it.
suggested. I did everything that Donald suggested. I even did that maneuver that he suggested, you know, but I won't
Yes.
say it on there. You know, I did
That's it.
everything he suggested.
What with
The one with Melania or
the one with the woman, the grabbing.
grabbed
thing.
it by the P word.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I make a habit in my life of doing everything that the Donald says.
Seriously, how did you treat it?
Well, interestingly, if you want to know, okay,
I do.
I felt quite sick after a couple of days. I felt absolutely freaking wiped out, and I said to the missus, "I'm feeling really bad here." Actually, I was bedridden. I couldn't do a damn thing. So she procured. I'm going to try and be subtle here. She procured these various underground treatments that I believe are basically illegal in this country. And
not horse paste, not involving horse paste.
Not
Some
horse
form of-
tranquilizer or
Not Mr. Mecton.
well,
Live
all
off.
I can say is that I now have 4 limbs. Okay,
But you better for it. Better for the experience.
and
It's
if
the
there's
fifth
not
ring you
enough
want to have
hay-
the advantage
what's
of.
a,
if not enough hay, I do a
You're
little
happy. You'd be so much more use around the house
Yeah, you know. You
Cole
know,
put a saddle on you?
with your
Well,
extra
look,
appendages.
look, it's obvious, but I'm going to point it out. They made a difference. Actually, they made a difference. They made me
did?
feel better. Yeah.
Why you in bed for 2 weeks?
Yeah. Well,
Like, every time I called up your wife, she said he's in bed. She's in bed. He might be sort of, you know. So
Are you feeling
that
okay
he
now?
might have been
I mean,
really
do
sick?
you still have lingering symptoms?
Does
I'm still
Castlemaine
feeling-
have a hospital, or you just like got a
Regional
shed?
area. Regional area.
it's got a bush lean-to kind of thing, like a swag kind of thing. You know.
That's probably a dress.
Yeah. It's got a
Like a
swag.
mash tent.
But
Like a mash
it's
tent
got
there.
this
Like with the
huge
helicopter.
testing station. It's
We were
huge.
worried.
Like testing
You know, we were worried, David, because we thought you were going to be the first one to die of the Omicron. You know what I mean? With just our luck on this show.
that-
the first
that
guy.
thing that there's no
died.
test for. The thing that there's no test for. Oh, that thing. Oh, that's right.
We
Yeah,
were preparing, David, don't get upset. If you had died of Omicron, we were going to prepare to memory hole you.
Oh, no.
We've already got to
Wrong
replace
It would have been a ratings
No, no,
bonanza.
no.
It would have been an
I
absolute
hate
ratings
to-
bonanza.
Not a
I hate to
rating
break it to you,
bonanza there. Come on,
But,
wrong approach, guys.
Richard?
Michael,
Richard,
it's
I don't know
really
how much
beautiful.
it is.
Yeah, have a turn, Richard. I'm
Jimi
just going to
Hendrix.
look. Sorry, guys, I can't do the comments because I haven't got my other computer. But before Richard,
Michael
go
had written
on,
a very,
I want
very
to
beautiful obituary for you, David.
change the subject.
Oh, that's very kind.
No,
Richard.
Michael had written a beautiful obituary. He worked at least a week on it, and he sent it to me, and asked for my notes, and I had to tip in a bit. It was quite beautiful, David. So you've gone and ruined that by fucking surviving, basically.
Oh, you'll get to use it sometime. Don't worry. We can.
No, we
can
love you,
put it
David.
out
We
in
love
Mickleham, you know.
I was worried about you.
Change the
When I'm
name.
trying to climb the wire in Mickleham, you'll get your chance to use it. Okay.
I mean, we're old friends, David. I was actually quite worried about you, and I spoke to Nicole, and I'm glad to see you back on your feet. Do you still have any lingering symptoms at all?
I feel a bit buggered, to be honest. I feel a bit exhausted. You know,
any advice to people who get the bad version? You know,
I would suggest seeking out those illegal treatments. You know, the ones that they've banned in Australia because they work.
Yeah.
David, you know full well if you see Richard in the next month or so, he will not shake your hand. He will sanitize. He might not even stay in the same bloody room as you. Mr. Skeptic here. Mr.
He might be seeing me for a month.
I actually suggested to David, I was actually going to come up tonight, but I had to do something else and see you. I said, Richard, why don't you come with me? And Richard's like, oh, no, I'm fine.
I think I'm all right.
He came around to my house to help me.
He's your bestie. He's your bestie.
He came around to my house to help me with an audition. Can you believe I actually still get any auditions, even though I'm an anti-vaxxer, so something slipped through the cracks there. But anyway, he's asked me if I've got hand sanitizer. He wants to sanitize before he touches my phone to record me.
And no offense, Richard, I don't think there's any more toxic in Melbourne than your hands, buddy. No offense, just saying. Now,
hello, blow. Hello, blow.
We're going to get to the main point.
I know.
No, okay. I got sent this.
David.
Take a breath. Pull it.
No.
Okay. I've been told that we have to come up with some strategies for Mickleham because they got cameras everywhere. One strategy for getting contraband in is to find the oldest members of the community in Mickleham and have them French kiss near the security cameras. So the security cameras watch you go, oh, and then when they're going, oh, you get in the contraband. That's a private joke.
It looks like David and Michael are going to be going down
for that.
Come on, Dave.
I mean, I'll take a hit.
Like you've been in bed for weeks anyway.
I think you two are volunteering for that gig, aren't you?
Look, I've had COVID. Look at me.
Radiating. And I think anal suppositories for Damo and Michael, that's the best way to go, David, don't you think? I think anal suppositories for the boys. I think it's the safest way. And they will take one for the team. They'll take one for the team, and I'm sure they'll be happy with it.
You wonder why he says he got dirty
shot
hands.
by a rubber bullet, buddy. Taking more than one. More than one.
Two for the team.
Major thing. We started the show with the video about this. So someone approached me. They tried to get his son into the library, and the people at the state library said, you can't come in. It's the rules. And this 11-year-old turned to his dad and said, most people are like dry leaves. They just blow where the wind takes them. And this profound statement is moving forward as we move forward because they're going to inoculate the children from the 10th, I believe. And we're not having any discussion about it. They're just telling us, no plebiscite, nothing. They're just telling us we're going to inoculate the 5-year-olds to basically protect the 86-year-olds, which is, I think if you look up in the dictionary, it comes under the word obscene. And this is what we're doing. And I think we need a discussion about it. And the only way we're going to discussion is to, well, basically we'll have it here, but basically is to protest. There's a big protest coming this Saturday. If you want to let the government hear that you're not happy about them basically mandating inoculating all the children, come to the protest.
Saturday was 12
That's
o'clock.
not really setting up. Yeah, 12 o'clock Parliament House. And we're talking to the organisers about some ideas to do something different with it. But I meant to put that into a question, but it became a statement. So Damien's got to now put it into a question so we can further the conversation.
What do you think about that, Richard?
Oh, well, okay. Well, I think David should definitely come out.
Throw it back to Dave. Dave throws it to me.
The Thrussell variant is upon us. And obviously, if David attends the protest, he'll bring the Thrussell variant, which will of course go global and provide the excuse for lockdown number 7, 8, and 9. So you've got to be there.
That's the variant where you automatically become a conspiracy theorist and you read a lot of K books. Okay, it's actually not such a bad variant. You know, like you get a very large library of JFK assassination books. You do all right.
Now, we've got Dr. Oosterhouse here, right? And so he's, I should actually bring him in. It'd be funny. I'll go grab him. So we've got Dr. Oosterhouse here, and he says he's been studying because he's got nothing to do now because he was an anaesthetist for 30 years, and they dismissed him because he was a what? Anaesthetist.
Sorry, I'm being a bitch. Yeah, I can't say it either.
He's being a bitch.
He put people to sleep temporarily. And
forever.
Not like permanently, like
You're making a good point.
Have you got him tied up in the dungeon again?
You've got a Wikipedia page. There's so anyway, they and he said to me he's been studying the studies in America and stuff coming. They reckon the chances of a child 5 to 11 dying from COVID is basically one in anywhere from 1 to 3 million. It's so remotely rare. But the chances of a child getting an adverse reaction, especially young boys, myocarditis, is much higher. Look it up. I'm not going to say why. Look it up. And I mean, really look. Just don't look on MSN. Look other places. Get out your phone and Google it. It's your kid. And I think it's a discussion we really have to have, because basically we're living in an era now where if the Titanic was sinking, we're basically saying, quick, get the nursing home residents into the lifeboats. Don't worry about the kids. It goes against everything, and they're using that morality against us. What do you think about it, David? Why do you think they're so determined to get juice to the children?
I just want to tell you a personal anecdote. You know, I personally know.
Does it pertain to what I'm saying, or is it just another COVID?
No, absolutely. Look, there are so many of these adverse reactions happening. You know, I'm not going to identify them. I do know a kid who had it and has got myocarditis. Boom, like that. A couple of weeks.
And myocarditis is not. They say it's mild. There is no such thing as mild. No,
they had to go to hospital. They had to go to hospital with heart complaints. This kid is 17. Okay, this kid is 17. Okay, it's revolting. It's revolting. And I can tell you, this is such an important thing. This is the whole game plan. Okay, every step of the way, and it's all been disgusting. I don't dispute that. The vaccine mandates have been disgusting. The passports are disgusting. Of course, they're all revolting. But the kids are the real target. This is where this long march has always led. It's led to the kids. They want the
David,
kids.
And I'll ask Richard as well, just a question. Is this the point where the Australian male, particularly, and father, at the behest, of course, of the mother who'll be so infuriated what's happening to her children, as men should be as well, is this the point where Australian men will stand up and say no more?
You would certainly hope so. This is a bridge too far. It's absolutely a bridge too far. We knew it was coming to this, okay? I think my personal view is I think they are planning some sort of shock and awe scheme in the next month or so to mandate it for the kids. I'm sure that they are just trying to figure out some sort of...
They would have already done it, yeah.
Well, you know, like with the mandate, so people could have jobs. You know,
I have a story there. There's a
14-year-old or some bullshit.
Richard, come on.
Go on, Rich.
I think I should just go to sleep, to be honest. Have the snooze.
No, Richard, come on. And I've got another question. Then I'm going to go to Michael. All right.
Okay.
So,
look, I mean, I want to just slightly differ. I think what I'm picking up, I'm somebody who's pretty good at reading media, and I'm somebody who's pretty good at recognizing patterns. As far as I'm concerned, what's going on in mainstream media is they're backing off a little right now. That doesn't mean they're not going to come back. And I know David's theory is that they push as far as they can, then they back off, and they push. And maybe that's what's going on. But right now, I sense that they're backing off a little. Now, in relation to mandates for children, I mean, I imagine they'll try something along the lines of, well, you'll need it to go to school. So there will still be the option you can take your kids out of school, or and not every school might have these mandates, of course, or move them to a school that doesn't have this.
Richard, if they're coming for the children and they're now bringing forward...
You're like Jeffrey Epstein, because the same fucking people behind the Jeffrey Epstein thing are behind
I just want to pick you up on how you think they're backing off. In what way are they backing up?
I'm talking about media right now. I'm talking about media. I mean, you know, basically in media, they're talking about Omicron is a milder version of COVID. It's like the flu, which, you know, I mean, obviously what David had wasn't exactly like the flu, but many people who get COVID, like Michael here, when you had it, he said it was like a bad cold, or, you know, and I know a lot of people who've had it who say that.
Manly, different.
Yeah, exactly. Different people react differently to it. David's had a more extreme version of it.
Yeah.
And for example, Nicole, your partner, she didn't get sick at all from it. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
There you go. But she was taking the right vitamins. She said she was taking vitamin E and everything. Maybe David wasn't prepared with the vitamin E. Were you taking the vitamin E, mate? Probably not.
No, mate. I gave up the vitamin E years ago. You know that.
Exactly. He tried the other kind of E. And
years ago, David.
Anyway, back to what we were saying. I don't know where we were here, but what you're saying, David, ways to mandate it to kids is peer pressure amongst the kids. There's a 14-year-old that wants to come on, but I think he's a bit young. He's had his arm broken fighting in school because he's not vaccinated, and he's been mercilessly bullied by the other kids because he's not vaccinated.
Sure.
So children want to belong. So once a few people have vaccinated their kids, they will shamefully, condescendingly try to shame the other kids into getting it. And so this is how they do it.
They lowered the age of consent. You know, I mean, they literally lowered the age of consent to 12. David? It's disgusting. You know, they lowered the age of consent till 12. It's revolting. Sure.
No. Richard, you were going to say something?
Oh no, I mean, you know, it is similar to the kind of situation. You know, we joke about, obviously at the same time as we've been talking about this, the Ghislaine Maxwell trial has been going on. You know what I mean? And the globalists obviously behind that, and they're also behind this other crisis. So they are, you know, they're child abusers.
You said about her, Richard, the most important fact: she's been found guilty. No one else has been arrested.
Not a single person. And we spoke about that, Michael. I mean, think about that. People say, "Is there a covering up?"
Haven't they suppressed the names of the other people that have been contained in some of her documentation?
And why is it all being laid at the door? I mean, obviously Prince Andrew did, you know, slept with a 17-year-old or whatever, but it's got to be remembered, like, that was the whole purpose of the Epstein. No one was paying, you know, billions of dollars from the mega group, which is a rich group of Zionists, led by Les Wexner. Spielberg is one of them. The mega group. Look that up, right?
Is that their name?
Sorry? The mega group, it's completely, it's a huge group of billionaire.
That's their official name.
The mega group,
the richest people in the world. That's the best name they could come up for themselves.
Well, it's a group. It's, I don't know, you know.
Not even trying. Can you see them? They're going, what should we call ourselves?
Well, they call themselves the mega group. Believe me, they're mega powerful. I mean, Les Wexner, he was the handler for the Mossad, right? You know, he was giving them the, you know, the money. I mean, what you think someone...
Cabal.com and some kid taking it. Sorry.
No, I mean, you know, do you think somebody just funds some, you know, pedophile like Jeffrey Epstein? The purpose was to blackmail people, right? And there must have been thousands of people, and there was thousands of people involved in this, and the only person that's being essentially hassled, I mean, we all know Bill Clinton was involved, but he's somehow getting getting off scot-free. It's all being laid at the door of the House of Windsor with Prince Andrew. Now, he's no doubt as guilty of sleeping with that 10-year-old, but, like, I mean, what about the other 1,000 people? Why is this Mossad operation being laid at the door of clearly their enemy, the House of Windsor? Because they wanted to blackmail them. Actually, it speaks well of the House of Windsor simply because they wanted to blackmail them, in the sense they must not own them. They must not be part of the same cabal. And that is something we could talk about.
So why are we talking about this, Richard? Do you think these things are connected? This is connected to
connected. It's all the same, you know. I mean, basically, as far as I'm concerned, there are two cabals. There's one that's doing this.
Well, let me finish.
This is how they control. I would suggest,
David, let Richard finish what the two cabals are, and then we come straight to you, mate.
And the other one, there's an older cabal that has run the world. I mean, we always talk about the secret cabal that runs the world from behind the scene. I don't know if you've been aware of it. There's been a cabal that's been running the world for about 500 years, and out in the open, out in the broad light of day, it's the British Empire. And that became the Commonwealth, and that became America, right? This has been running we run the fucking world. I mean, don't ever let anyone tell you any fucking different, okay? Someone else has been trying to subvert us, absolutely. But I believe there's been, you know, essentially two cabals at work. One that has been the predominant one that's run everything, which is, you know, the Anglo-Saxon, well, you know, AUKUS or
the second one.
And the evil one that is the globalists, you know, which is made up of all different kinds of evil, wealthy people from all around the world. Basically, it's like Spectre. And if you look at something like James Bond, that says exactly what's going on. MI6 versus Spectre. I mean, you know, it was in that new James Bond film.
Point. And Richard, just very briefly, that's my point. Spectre is a much better name. I mean, I realize it's gone.
I think if they use that...
Mega group is crap. Mega group sounds like something you get at the movies with your popcorn. I'll have popcorn.
Well, I mean,
that's the writer. That's the writer in
just saying, it's a bad name.
The title of...
They got all that money. That's the name. Now, I want to get back to the kids before we go.
We will, but David, what did you want to say? And then we'll come back to the kids. David, you were going to say something before.
I think that the Epstein thing and the Ghislaine Maxwell thing, I think it's actually really important. I think to add to what Richard was saying, they're hiding things in plain sight there, okay? Yeah. What that narrative tells you that's one of the ways, not the only way I would suggest, but that's one of the ways that they control our politicians and our media is blackmail. Okay, it's telling you that out in the open. Okay, it's there. If your eyes are open, you can join the dots and you can see that a scumbag like Epstein was simply a front man for a massive blackmail operation, and that is how they control our political sphere, our media sphere, academia, science, all the rest of it. The military.
Over the last 2 months, and I'd never heard it before, I keep hearing that somehow Scott Morrison is implicated in being a pedophile. I mean, it just seems absurd to me. Or is that the case?
No, that rumor's been around for years, okay? And I'm not sure what we can say on here without getting completely and utterly censored, okay? But that rumor has been around.
We don't know if it's true. We're just saying we've heard the rumor. We're not saying it's true. Another thing with that Epstein, if you watch that documentary on Netflix, they sort of slipped over how he actually made his money. He went from being like nothing to like mega rich, and they didn't really clearly state how he did it. It didn't make sense how he did it.
Ghislaine Maxwell too. Ghislaine Maxwell's father is Robert Maxwell, and he died under mysterious circumstances in the early 90s. And he was a renowned, well-suspected Mossad agent. And, you know, she had a very kind of incestuous relationship with her father. So after her father dies, she switches her affections from her father, who no doubt abused her growing up, to this creep Epstein. So, I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell is clearly an MK Ultra kind of thing, you know, that had been molded since she was young to be this kind of...
Richard?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen with her. I imagine they will... I think they want to protect her because obviously they do have... she's probably the one who holds the videos, you know what I mean? Someone must have a dead person switch. So maybe they're... I don't know what's going to happen with her. Maybe they'll kill her. Maybe they'll whisk her off to Israel and, you know, fake a death. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. But like
the vaccination is a dead person switch, because have we seen the footage of the guy whose brain sort of explodes and stuff, and they're trying to suggest that that's somehow being controlled by the graphene oxide inside his body?
Oh, you're talking about Jeffrey Epstein now, or?
No, there's some guy was at a protest or something. I think maybe it was in Canada.
No, Israel.
Israel, that's right.
And they got a video of him, the smoke's coming out of his eyes, and they're trying to put him out, but the smoke's actually coming out of his eyes.
It's just as you're saying the death button, Richard.
I mentioned James Bond before. I don't know if you saw the new James Bond film, No Time to Die, which is a great film. Highly recommended. Daniel Craig has gone out with a really good film.
I didn't like the end. I couldn't.
But hang on, let's just talk about the idea of it. It deals with the idea of a kind of assassination weapon that targets DNA, right? You wonder what the hell these shots could be, you know? I mean,
that was actually terrifying. Yeah,
because think about it. If they've somehow timed whatever shots you're getting to your DNA, basically they can just ring up your phone, and maybe the nanobots come together in your heart or in your brain, and that's the end of you. I mean, you know,
very clearly in the film. That's what they bought it for, this way to just kill everybody like that. We
don't know. It's ambiguous, and we have to keep guessing. And obviously, this is why, you know, when you're in what's called the conspiracy community, you know, you have to guess, and you can guess wrong because we're guessing at the machinations of the most evil group of people that have ever come together.
Well, it's true. It's not just the propaganda about
disinformation. So throughout all this stuff, you know, there's disinformation spread everywhere as well, you know.
David,
in all this stuff, there are kernels of truth, you know, but of course there's also a blizzard of disinformation as well, you know. I mean, the Epstein thing is really, really important. It's a flag, it's a signal telling you how they control our media and our politics. They're telling you straight out, this is how we do it.
Hang on. The other thing is, don't think Epstein's the only operation. I mean, there's operations like him. There was the one in Washington, D.C., which was the Pizzagate one, which was John Podesta and James Alefantis. And that was so serious because it involved people who were in the GOP and the Democrats, who were major politicians. That had to be denied altogether. That could never be broke. You know what I mean? And, you know, it was...
They allowed Epstein to be caught in the first place and go to trial. Why did they bring that out? Why didn't they just kill Maxwell, whatever her name was earlier?
Well, I don't know. There's a reason for that. You know, as I said, maybe either Epstein or Maxwell had the videotape, had the blackmail footage. And if you were the person who had the dead people,
classically, what happens in these scenarios? Because you're right. Normally, these people are completely untouchable. Possibly they pissed off the wrong person. Possibly they were too sloppy in their operation. You know, they did something that pissed somebody off, and they've hung them out to dry. And they've got plenty of other operatives who can do the nasty work.
Okay, and I reckon this is a great opportunity for a chat at some stage, and we need to broaden the concepts of the show. But at the moment, we really do need to bring it back to talking about what these jabs are going to roll out, really particularly for Australian children on the 10th of January. Michael?
Because we're meant to be talking about children, we're talking about pedophiles. So...
Well, you're talking
there's an awkward symbiosis there that we didn't really want to highlight, but unfortunately we have now.
I don't know how we got there, but
a group of globalists want to jab children.
To the people in the public who are watching, and this is to ask questions for the comments to go. Are you happy with them doing it? Do you trust the science? Have you no problem, going back, realizing that in the science has maybe not got it wrong a few times, and science does get it wrong until it gets it right? Or so do you have faith in the science, or are you concerned? Are you concerned maybe why can't we have a discussion about it? Why is 4 mature white guys discussing it here on Facebook rather than on the ABC or Channel 9 or Channel 7? Why we're in Parliament? Why we're having this discussions here? Because it's major. Because this thing is in the kids' bodies forever. We all know there's adverse reactions. There was one nurse. And we've got other nurses coming on now. 2 more nurses want to come on. But one nurse the other day told us in her hospital, they have 20 a day come in with heart problems, young men. That's one hospital. On average, every day, 7 days a week, one hospital. And so I think why can't we discuss it about this? This is our future, our young men. The other thing...
as somebody made the really interesting point a while ago, and I think it's really valid. What this tells you, and I completely agree with what Michael's saying, I 100% agree. These are all completely valid questions that they're really necessary. And it tells you there's something really fundamentally wrong that we can't have these conversations. But as somebody pointed out, what's happening now with the children is the opposite of what happens in a functional, courageous, brave society, which is where the adults protect the children. Okay. Yeah. This is what adults are supposed to do. This is what parents are supposed to do, and adults are supposed to do. They're supposed to circle around the children and protect them. This is our role as parents and adults. What we're seeing,
David, are we not a fringe group?
Version of that. We're seeing children supposedly being used, and I don't believe the narrative, don't worry, but supposedly the children are being used to protect the adults. This is an inversion.
David, I'd say I would suggest maybe we're a fringe group on a small platform which is growing and has some significance maybe, but compared to the mainstream media, I'd say many parents are saying, thank God they've finally approved it for our children, and they can't wait to queue up and get their children jabbed.
There's children there's parents in the age who are wanting
that is dysfunctional.
An extra week. They want an extra week's holiday. This is in the age, an extra week's holiday, so they can get vaccinated before it goes to school. And my question is, because we know now the science is out there everywhere that COVID can't kill your child unless it's already an unhealthy child, has all these other problems. If it's a healthy child, it cannot kill your child. The odds are so rare. Why would you risk it? Why would you risk it?
Valid question. Roll the story back. A year ago, COVID didn't touch children, supposedly. No. It didn't touch them. They were impregnable.
No stats haven't changed.
Okay? Until they wanted to jab the kids. And then all of a sudden, kids were super spreaders and there were outbreaks of schools. Come on, people, look at the narrative. The narrative is false. It is constructed. It is completely false. When they were ready to roll out the jab to the kids, all of a sudden, kids got sick. It's
Richard,
in David's area, Castlemaine, I spoke to a mutual friend of ours in Bendigo, and he said the official story is that the COVID outbreak in Castlemaine area came from a school, and that it was the children who spread it, you see? And I looked up the article online. That's what the article said. So in other words, whatever happened in your area is a psyop for inject children. Like they literally sent it to your area.
Absolutely. Yep. That's exactly what was happening. Yep. And it's obvious. It's false. It's a constructed narrative. Remember, that huge testing centre was there a week before anything happened. A week.
Let's just ask this to the audience too, to spread out. Is it morally correct now in this new landscape? Is it morally correct now to inoculate the youngest children in order to protect the nursing home residents and those who are in that, demographic? Is that actually morally correct now? What's that
It's
line?
a fundamental question. It's a fundamental question. Do we use children? Are children there to be used to protect adults? It's disgusting.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's a really interesting question. I'm really interested in that. If you think, because I did have one woman who used to be a friend who goes, yes, inoculate every child in Australia so that my mum, who's 96 in a nursing home, can be safe. And I just
remember when this started. I mean, remember when this started.
But I found that really interesting that that's what she believed.
Richard? When this started, the agenda was all about protecting the elderly and the immunocompromised. And, if there really is something that was more like what David had, an actual something terrible actually going around, whether it's a bioweapon, if it's chemtrails, whatever has happened, but whatever that was, I can understand protecting the elderly and the immunocompromised. And as far as I'm concerned, that is who we should have been protecting. And once we had established a level of protection and maybe, developed something that would help them, we should all have gotten on with our lives and had no more of this bullshit. And it's just extraordinary. And this overreach and all this extra stuff, this is the stuff that's the work of the cabal. Okay?
But it's been so monetized now, hasn't it? Because even just to have a test, if you have a test and you're found to be positive with COVID, I don't think anyone's really necessarily scared of finding out that they're positive with COVID, but it means you're going to get paid. You're going to get paid to stay off of work. Because I know when I was walking past on New Year's Day, I was walking past the COVID testing clinic just near me, and there was a line just as long as any other day. It was massive. I mean, I don't want to find out for the new year whether I've got COVID or not. Or is it, no, I want money. It's going to let me be paid for having COVID. Sorry, Richard?
I've never seen lines at the vaccination, hubs or whatever, like they are right now. Like, even at the beginning of the crisis, there were lines at various stages of the crisis whenever they would really panic people. But right now, I've never seen anything like it. I've been into streets where you can't move. You have to go onto a different street because people are backed up.
Is that to travel? Maybe some of that's to travel, isn't it? Because you'd have to have a negative test to be able to travel, and suddenly people are allowed to travel again.
That could be it.
Is it because what I noticed yesterday, we had the free huggers, and one of our free huggers is called Nicola. Beautiful young woman. She's dressed like a hippie child. She's got these free hugs. She's walking along the line, and there's just these people. She's like full of life, and they're all standing there, meet apart with the thing, just watching her like they're dead. And you're thinking, really, is this really the future you want? Because this is just going to keep happening. Are you really happy with this? Somehow think it's going to happen? Or do you actually go, yeah, but this is life. I can live with it. I can live with it.
David?
I think it's a great observation, because I think in some ways a lot of people are partially dead now. They're so defeated, they're so demoralized. It always makes me think, if you know the great writer Philip K. Dick, he's generally classified as a science fiction writer. In so many of his books,
read a lot of Doctor Who. He read a lot of Doctor Who.
No. He wrote Blade Runner and Total Recall and all these sort of things. He's actually a great writer. He's one of the best.
I didn't like that Blade Runner book.
Anyway,
I didn't like the book.
Anyway, keep going, David.
Oh, for God's sakes, read it. It's amazing. But he in so many of his books, he talks about androids, okay? But he's not talking about robots, clunkety clunk. He's talking about people who look like people, who behave like people, but there's nothing inside them. They're dead. He talks about
that's also
this is what I think we're seeing. I think with people.
That's also.
Hang on, let that finish. Sorry, David.
You can call them whatever you like. You call them NPCs, androids, whatever you like. But there's a whole lot of people out there, a certain percentage of the population, who are basically dead inside. Spiritually, there's no flame inside them. There's no.
I don't think that's the vaccine. Richard, can I talk to you after? Can I talk after you, Richard? You go first.
I just wanted to say, isn't it interesting? And what you're describing there, David, is the kind of plot line to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which was a famous. I've been watching in lockdown. I've been watching lots of classic I've been watching a lot of film noir because I mean, there's not many great new movies being made. But also watched a lot of unusual science fiction from the 50s, and every film, the message is that something evil is afoot, and that this is really in the 50s too. This is when the cabal began, and it needed about 10 or 15 years to kind of congeal itself. And around this time, there are always these paranoid. Some of them are connected to the Red Scare and McCarthyism and stuff. But I mean, that turns out McCarthyism was completely correct, as they were trying to bring in international communism, which is exactly what we now have the beginnings of. So I mean, first of all, McCarthy has been completely proven to have been worried about something legitimate. But like, I mean, this whole thing in the all those films like Them and It Came from This Outer Space, they all have this thing that there's some unspeakable evil is here. I mean, these films to me were reflecting actual reality, that there was this cabal forming, that this evil that was going to descend upon humanity.
And that just humanity's capacity for denial? Isn't that just humanity's capacity for denial? Anyway, Michael, sorry,
I want to lead on that. I actually don't think they're dead. I think they've been fooled. I think they've bought into the deal of taking one vaccine, taking another. Now they're looking at a third. And I don't think our side can actually, we should stop saying I hear people saying, oh, they got to wake up. I think that's a put down as much as a put down as anti-vaxxer. I think calling them sheep is a put down. I think we should actually say, listen, they looked at the choice, they made a choice. Now they're starting to decide against it. And if we've got to stop this, we all need to come together. And so I don't think we should judge them for the choices they made. And when I see them in the line, they're so depressed that I see hope. And where I see the hope is in, like, if you get on the page and look at what Tracy, the hugger, did, where she hugged a cop this week and a cop hugged her. And all these, like this one Asian woman didn't want to be hugged. Then she gets hugged. She's got a mask on. And then Tracy said, could I see your face? And she pulls it down. And the smile is like flowers. And then the girl hugs her again and gives her a big hug. So I think people are wanting to get back. What I think is the real agenda isn't so much getting toxin into your body, but is getting people out of your heart and telling you the way to protect yourself is to empty your heart of people who, unless they think like you. And that's why people look so dead, because people need people. And one trick that I learned in this thing that I wrote is the only way to keep your heart strong is to give it away. That's it. There's no other way.
Give it away. Metaphorically dead. Isn't that what that's the artistic point? They're saying they're metaphorically dead because that denial actually leads to a death of the spirit.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, but they talk about a mental health crisis, and clearly a lot of people who've gone along with the narrative are suffering from a form of mental illness, and it's almost like Stockholm syndrome to some extent. But yeah, we shouldn't be judging them. I mean, it's actually probably quite I mean, considering the information that has been poured down the majority of people's throats. It's kind of maybe logical.
Big Pharma will have something to help them with that mental illness, won't it? Big Pharma will have something in there.
No, we have to help them. We need to be the place where they can go. If they finally come back and then talking to those who are either unvaxxed or only partially vaxxed. I mean, the new thing is a blue tick. So the green ticks will now shortly be seen as us again. And they need to have an option. One of the options is coming with us. We might not have all the bells and whistles and money, but we're good fun. We're a great team, and we're a lot of empathy, and we've got a lot of stuff that you're going to really enjoy.
But I mean, we've
got to become a valid option.
Cynically, isn't it? It's a self-perpetuating situation where they cause a problem and then they come up with a solution, which is it's no solution, but it is the solution to the problem.
It's not a coincidence too.
Again and again and again. So Richard?
It's not a coincidence too that the new Matrix film is opened at the moment. You know what I mean? Because I mean, this is the whole blue pill and the red pill, which is very much to a similar situation of vaccinated, unvaccinated at the moment, or whatever. But like, apparently, I haven't seen the new film. I'm going to see it in the next few days. But apparently, I mean, I imagine the new film says the Matrix.
They're going to pirate it.
New film because it says that being in the Matrix is a good thing. I imagine that's what the new film says. That would be my guess, because I don't know if you know that the two filmmakers, they were two, like tough brothers, the Wachowski brothers from Chicago. They grew up on the rough streets of Chicago. They made these kind of tough action films, and then now they're both women apparently, and clearly, well, they're both degenerate perverts, and now they've gone through the whole system or whatever. And exactly. But you know what I mean, like. It's just nonsense, I mean, and this new film, one of the brothers or sisters didn't participate in it. I can't remember.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So,
run out of a narrative. Has the culture run out of a narrative?
Oh my God, 666.
And that's where we are now because we've run out of a narrative.
Can somebody
Matrix.
please do a like
We
or
don't believe in
something because
ourselves
we're
anymore.
stuck on 666. Oh, thank you.
We mentioned the Matrix, but like, there's a great meme going around on Facebook, which is like, the Matrix 4 has got everyone lining up, and there's Agent Smith at the door checking everybody's vaccine passport.
Right.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the
But
Matrix.
it's a remake at the moment, isn't it? It's a
Yeah.
remake, or it's another Superman, or another
I have no
Batman,
idea.
or
I
whatever.
haven't
Or
seen it.
Matrix 4 20 years ago. Now there's no new
I-
ideas. The country-
We're over
I
now.
predict-
But I was talking to a French guy here today. He said, or somewhere, we were talking to someone yesterday. They're getting people in Austria now who are going to be people who are not vaxxed. Oh, it's Dr. Hobart. Hey, Dr. Hobart, how you going?
Take over, Damo.
Well, he did this to me one time. We were doing an interview with someone, and he had some technical problems. He left for 20 minutes.
We can
I
manage.
mean, I've had some career, some interest, but I had to talk about my career for 20 minutes. I didn't know what else to do.
Well, at least he shuts up when he's gone, so that's one advantage.
Hey,
That's it.
off air, Michael was telling me something that I thought was interesting and that we should mention. He was saying off air that somebody said that in France, they've banned footage from Australia of what's happening in Australia.
Yes, he
They've
told me that as
apparently
well.
banned footage. That's all I know.
So they don't know how bad the narrative is here, and don't frighten the horses there for when
Yeah,
it's
like-
going to be rolled out there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Like,
apparently,
locally,
Michael told me off air they've banned footage in France from Australia. That's
like
all I know.
locally, I mean, the local media seems to have backed off the whole COVID thing a little. Like, Omicron's is milder, and this should be the end of this year's the end of the COVID crisis and
They're
everything.
just regrouping. All they're doing
Is
is
there something
regrouping
proud there for the
ready
Australian?
for the new attack.
Is there
But
something
in
proud for Australians?
France,
Like,
it's a different story.
but we've never been the political centre of anything, and suddenly we're the political centre of something, and they ban us from even being the political centre of something. It was like when Martin Bryant killed all those people. There was almost a strange pride. Our serial killers killed more than not serial killer, but mass murderer has killed more than anybody else. And
There is
suddenly,
a conspiracy theory that
banned.
there's a conspiracy theory that Australia doesn't exist. Have you heard that one?
I actually like that. It's like a Cray Brothers
I
show.
like that one.
You know the Cray
Yeah,
Brothers.
really.
We're all actors. David, have you still got
We're
that
actually getting a studio where we can be together. And I don't know how it happened, but I'm not actually sitting on anything. I'm about the same height. So it just must be my legs that are shorter.
I see.
Legs. The really long torso.
Not that it bothers me.
Weird to
Not
look
that
at.
it bothers me. I'm just saying.
Abbott Costello.
Anyway, sorry, boys. What were you saying? Anything
Guys,
else?
just
Any
some
last
big news
comments?
before we go. That was Dr. Hobart. What's his first name?
Mark.
Dr. Mark Hobart. We're here now. We have Dr. Paul Oosterhuis. And tomorrow we are driving to Colac, where there's another Hungarian doctor who was basically giving out exemptions and basically suspended. We're bringing those two doctors up to meet him tomorrow, and we're going to record it of doctors meeting doctors because the other doctor's ready to talk. So
Beautiful.
later in the week we'll have that show. So it should be a beautiful
Three
show.
doctors. Sounds like a Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love it.
Three doctors.
Three doctors.
What was I talking about before?
David, you shut up all of a sudden. What's going on?
Well, let's.
God,
let's
well,
find
now
out. What about?
Michael-
Is there any last
No,
comments you boys have?
just before I say
Michael,
this is in
can I
Austria.
just ask
Austria,
you-
this will terrify you. Wait, David, this will terrify you. They're getting people in Austria to hunt out the unvaccinated. Once they
You're used
find
to that.
one, they get a fine. If they don't pay the fine, they get a bigger fine. If they don't pay that fine, they go to jail for a year. That's happening in Austria, of all places.
How do you hunt them out? Is it like getting a pig to sniff for truffles, or what? How do you?
I
hunt
imagine
that?
it's a Austrian
not
corporal
good
situation,
ideas.
mate.
Yeah,
So
it's
Anne
disgusting.
Frank situation.
Disgusting. Hey, Michael.
I believe they
off air-
just play Farnham's The Voice, and whoever sings along, they go, ha!
No, people scatter. They'll scatter. They'll go, there they go. We got one. We got one. We got one.
One
It's
more
Nick
tour.
Christopher
Well,
Waltz
you.
from-
I love the fact,
Michael.
Johnny, if you're listening, I know you're on the other side, and we sing your song, but well, you didn't write it, so tough luck.
Yeah, tough luck, buddy. Yeah.
David?
Hey,
David,
Michael,
what were you gonna say?
off air, you said, Michael, off air, you said that they were banning in France, they were banning footage from Australia. Tell me more about
Oh
that.
yes, yeah. We have. So we've got a French guy here today, and we've done a video going to France, asking to link up with streamers over there, like we're doing now, so we can actually talk to people in France and Italy, And he told us that France TV, the media and TV, has a ban on anything coming from Australia, especially Melbourne, to France. And apparently it's the same in Italy, so it's probably the same in other countries. So they're banning us. So we're going to try and get an independent link going up. This is the current world we live in. And this is the current world we live in. That is actually true. All these things are true, and still they're going to vaccinate your children. And so if you won't even question it, I don't understand why you wouldn't question, look up and say, do we have to do this? So to me, I'm very interested as to why you have blind faith to do it.
I just wanted to say one word. Of course, ask questions. Of course. But just one word, okay? If you believe the mainstream narrative and all the mainstream media bullshit, I've just got one word to say to you. Thalidomide. How long did it take? How long did it take to find out how diabolical that was?
Yeah, that's right.
You want to experiment on your kids? For how long did it take? 20 years? 20 years for them to admit?
Even when the person who was fighting it knew,
they knew for quite some time.
They knew for a long time, and they still kept going because they were making money. And it was also another thing. There's another thing that started in the 1950s. It was called cancer causing. They kept going to the 80s because they're making money. And at the moment, they're making an awful lot of money. And they're a corporation, so it's a psychopathic entity. It just wants to make money at any cost. It can't help itself. It's just how it's born. So you've really got to ask yourself, do you trust? Why do you trust? Is it because you want to feel safe? Well, I don't know, but I'm really interested to come on to tell us why you have such blind faith. We don't actually have you on the show. I have blind faith. The other thing we want to do before we go, there's a lot of trolls on the show, so hi to all the trolls. Hi, trolls.
Hi, trolls.
Hi. Richard here. We're setting up a show. If you want to take him on, called Richard the Troll Killer. So if you feel that you have the kahunas to take on the Richard, the Troll Killer, get in touch and say, I'm a troll. I want to debate the Richard, and we'll have this show called Richard the Troll Killer.
The Richard and the Trolls.
Yeah.
Richard and the Trolls.
And he's quite open-minded. He's quite gentle. He does have a lot of BDSM theory, but don't worry about that. You're not going to do it person to person.
Yeah. You may get spanked. If you do badly, you may get spanked within an inch of your life. Yeah, well, that's right. Severe punishment. You know,
some are going to like that, as you know. Some are going to like that.
Some will like that. Yes.
You
may end up in his dungeon.
Really bad. Okay. My unvaccinated free huggers will hug you.
He may hug you. It may be a sort of severe hug on the posterior.
I want to set up because you got the free hugs. I want to set up the free slaps. When's that happening? You know,
just weird being this close. Just weird.
Different strokes for
different. We're on our way. We're on our way.
I mean, Michael, you've got to cover both markets. You know,
give it a few months. We're on our way to your world. Morally, we're on our way. We're almost there. Just hold on.
Herman's wearing good come in handy just yet.
Don't sell that jacket to anybody.
No, I won't.
Right. So just think about it, people. Before you stab your kids, before you stab your dear, dear children who are the future, just think thalidomide.
Unfortunately, I think on this platform, we're probably already preaching to the converted, but who knows? Who knows?
Oh, one last thing. We're moving to a studio soon where we can actually do this together. So this is the first test of actually... I don't know why that's funny, but it is. Yeah. No wonder.
So you haven't moved in together.
Anyway, so we'll be doing this together. Probably set it up a bit better. You know, like someone can bring their green screen.
Yeah, someone can use their green screen. You know, you meant to set it up as a green screen with nothing on it.
I've got it set on green, and there's.
You like my green screen? Do you like my green screen? Look, I'm actually in a very well lit studio.
Yeah, you need a light for green screen to work.
Did you buy David a light? Buy David a light, for God's sake.
Something.
What is this light thing?
He actually looks better in the dark.
Here's an idea, David.
Yes.
Get off the grid. Get back on the grid just for the show.
No, I don't like the grid. I'm suspicious of the grid. You know that.
Most people off grid have candles or something, at least a couple of candles or what, you know?
Yeah, we're out of matches.
Fireflies in a jar, something.
Yeah. Well, no, we got fireflies here somewhere, but they all escaped. All the fireflies.
How about solar-powered Christmas lights?
You set them free. They didn't escape. You let them free.
Well, I felt that we were oppressing the fireflies. So
okay, as usual, we're over, but the customers are still with us.
Final word.
Now, final thing. So the Go show we're thinking of doing the Goat Show every Sunday night at 8 o'clock, and then Monday to Thursday, 7 to 8, we do the other show. Might be 7:30 to 8 if we get late coming back from Colac, but 7 to 8. Tuesday, it's just me because Damo's got a holiday that he goes to. And so it's 7 to 8, and then Friday and Saturday off, and we might be doing country shows on those days, or I might be just going up to do live streaming. Now, if you want me to come to the country, I'm quite happy to come to the country with a videographer just to do the open mic. And there's people from country towns offering us accommodation, willing us to come, and I'm quite willing to come and record your things, and we'll record them and play them live. So let us know if you want to come to your town, and I'll come.
And it's a 1 day a week holiday I go on every week. I have a holiday on a Tuesday.
And Pete Evans, that's his name.
Yes, Pete Evans. Chef
Pete Evans is coming on. He sort of
We
shamed him. We shamed him into coming on.
I'm glad he's coming on.
And so he is coming on. And so that show's coming. So just, get your cooking utensils, line them up, because he's going to teach you how to cook the next variant, which is called Flurocon, I believe.
Flurocon is here. It's in Israel.
Flurocon.
Flurona?
No. Flurona.
All right.
Flurona.
They are dropping off now. So let's go while we still can. And
see you guys. And we're going to end with Richard's song.
Yes, Pussifer, Take Me Out. This song came out at 3 months into the crisis and still relevant. Take it away. Pussifer. If you can get it to work.
Like it came up.
James Maynard Keenan from Tool. It's his side project. David, it's good to see you alive.
Sorry, guys. I'll have to play
it. Love you, mate.
We'll just go.
Glad you're back.
Australia. Say
good night.
Good night.